couple times. I got a pretty bad coolant leak on the truck here. Freightliner 114 SD. It's all over. It's really hard to tell where it's coming from. Here's the passenger side or the right side of the motor. It's all over. Cross members soaked. Everything's soaked. I've looked at all these fittings. None of them are leaking. Coolant all over the top of the motor. One spot it keeps getting wet is right here. No matter what, even when the truck's sitting. I did get on the throttle a little bit with the hood open, and I could see coolant coming from this area, and I thought maybe it was just vibrating and splashing up. And I had one of the counter persons at Napa come out and get on the throttle, and I could see it coming from right here. And if you look close, the radiator is cracked. We do have another radiator coming. It's supposed to be here Monday. It's Friday right now. The new radiator is supposed to be here Monday or Tuesday. So this old radiator here can be left to do whatever I want with. And I want to try something. I got this 2-part JB weld. I'm gonna clean this radiator up really good with some ether and a wire brush, and mix this up and put it on there. And then I'm gonna go try and haul a tank with the truck here and see if it'll hold. I've got really nothing to lose because like I said, we got a new radiator coming Monday, and it's not puking out of there. It's about a gallon and a half an hour or so. So yeah, I just want to see if this stuff would work on something like this. Hopefully the engine's not overpressuring or something like that. I talked to the people there at the Freightliner dealership, and they said that these radiators are notorious for cracking. So anyhow, I'm gonna dry up the puddles. I'm gonna clean it up with some ether and let that dry out for a while, and then I'm gonna wire brush it and mix this up and see if it works. All right, so it's Monday morning. Put that miracle goop on there on Friday when I got back in the yard here. I was gonna go haul a roll off this weekend just to test it out, but it's been really cold. You can see here we got about a foot of snow, and being that it's cold and the truck's not inside, I wanted to let that goop cure for an extra day, so I let it cure all day yesterday. I didn't start it, but I'm gonna go see if it's leaking here. Like I said, we got a radiator coming either today or tomorrow, but if that patch holds, well then it'll give us a little more flexibility, and when I could actually switch out the radiator in this truck, we won't have to do it like immediately if it's not leaking. So let's go check the patch out. I got the truck running, it's warmed up now. Let's see if it's leaking. As you can see here, it's not leaking at the moment. It's a little tacky. It doesn't appear to be leaking really bad, or if at all right now. But like I said, this is tacky, so it's not soft, but it's tacky. So as you can see, the bubble yum did not work. Still leaking pretty bad. Got a new radiator in. We're gonna pull this old one out. I do think that stuff would work, but I think you'd have to sand the reinforcement lines. You'd have to grind those down, start smooth. if these reinforcement lines here, if we ground that or sanded that to where it was smooth and then put the bubble yum on, I think that would actually work. I think it's hard when you have like a square like that. You can't get it down into the corners. So as you're trying to put that putty in the squares, as you're pushing it in one area, it's having to come out in another area. It's like little pockets of air. But I do think it would work if everything was totally flat. So we got the new radiator in. We're gonna have to take out this old one. I think it comes out with this carriage here. And then you put the carriage on the new one. The intercooler's gonna have to come off. The grill here is gonna have to come off. Looks pretty easy, about 8 torques. I'm gonna try and do this without removing the air conditioning condenser. I think if we unbolt and get like some of these Christmas trees out, I think get the bolts off the condenser and take some of these clamps off, I think we'll be able to swing that whole condenser with the hoses and everything over to here. And then we're gonna have to remove the shroud. I don't know if we're gonna take off the fan. I think we'll be able to take the shroud off and just set it back. I'm also gonna pull these hood cables, and I don't know about the actuator, but then I'm gonna set the hood on a ladder or a bucket right here, or a barrel. Well, let's get going. This is the drain here for the radiator. Wrench on there and back that out. I got a 1-inch and that works just right. You can loosen the cap and it will drain out faster. For this cable bolt here, it's just a 16 on top, and this is a weld nut here, so you don't have to take that off. Before I take that bolt completely out, I'm going to take the weight off of the hood, off of the cable, so it doesn't slam down. For now, I'm just going to put the bolts back in the hole so I know where they're at. I was trying to see if I could take this apart without taking the grill off. I thought maybe that the grill was attached to something else and they could come off together, but if you look back in here, behind the screen, that's the bolt for the carriage for the grill here. So the grill has to come off. So I think these are 30 Torx, T30. Let's find out. So I got a T25 and a T30 Torx. I'm gonna show you something here. This T25, it will fit in there and it will engage, but eventually it's gonna strip out. Here's a T30. It also fits, but it has a lot less slack, and it's not gonna strip out the bit or the screw. All right, I got the grill off. Those were T30 Torx. Looks like to get this condenser off, we got 4 bolts here, 2 on each side. Oh, they got a slot in the back. So as long as they don't stick, it should come right off. Those are about like a 12, I think, 12 millimeter. Yeah, they're actually a 13 millimeter. I'll be extra careful at this point because if you get a hole in this condenser and you have a cheap Boss, you're not gonna have air conditioning. Well, actually, it looks like those washers are separate. They're just baked on. So I have to make sure to grab that, and then I'm gonna grab this one. I'm gonna try and get them off because eventually they'll fall off when you're not looking and you won't know where they went. So you should have 4 nuts and 4 washers this size at this point. So you see these lines here, these are what go back to your air conditioning stuff. And they run through this hole in the bracket right here. This bracket definitely has to come off. I'm thinking these are like a 10 millimeter. Yeah, these are for sure 10 millimeter. So as you can see, it's kind of interwoven here where this bracket is behind the intercooler, but then these hoses run underneath it. So you're gonna have to use 2 hands. You're gonna have to kind of pull the intercooler out so you can get it off of the stud here, and then get this piece of metal out of here and either drop it or set it somewhere really quick and then get your hands on this condenser. All right, this is the best view I could get you guys. Actually, that's a better view. So see, this is loose here, but it can't come off because the condenser is in the way, and you're gonna want both hands. The whole thing is to not put a hole in this and to try not to have to disconnect it from the truck, because then you have to get a vacuum pump, vacuum out the Freon, and then when you're done, you got to recharge it, which isn't the end of the world, but let's see if we can do it without having to do that. So I'm just gonna slide it out on the bottom, and then I'm gonna put the condenser back on. Right there, so I'm always keeping it on. Otherwise, I'm afraid this is just gonna fall and knock into something, get a hole in it. And so now I'm gonna put a little weight on my elbow and pull out on the top, like this. See, these, it's not wanting to come out right now, and I think there's actually some brackets on the other side that you have to disconnect for these lines, for these hard lines. They're hard, and they're like a mix, hybrid hard. So I'm going to take the wing off on this side since I'm in here and on this far. Now I'm going to go outside and show you how to disconnect these hard lines, because right now everything's so rigid. I can't get it out far enough to get this wing out from underneath it. So you see this, the lines come around, they're steel, and then they're rubber, and then they're steel again. This is the bracket here for this line, and then this line goes into whatever this something thingy for the AC. And so you only have a little bit of flex here, but then they both return to rubber again right here. So what I'm gonna do is remove these two bolts here so I can pull this off, and remove these two bolts here so I can pull this off, and then hopefully that whole condenser can come up out of the way. These are a 13 millimeter, I think. Yeah, these two are 13. These are also a 13. Okay, so these studs here are like a part of this bracket. So when I take this top one out, you need to be careful. This will get down here. The only other problem I see is this rubber cowling here. That's going to get in the way a little bit. I think you can just pull that. You can pull this whole piece out right here, the top. Actually, you can't. It is connected right here. Okay, so I got the wing piece off. Once I loosened those up, the condenser was able to come forward just enough where I could get the wing off of this bolt here, and then slide it sideways with the bolt that way and get it off. These bolts are pretty tight in here, these little guys, but these bigger ones, they're kind of loose. It's just a carriage bolt slid in there. Well, you can't really see, but it's just a carriage bolt that slid in there, and I'm going to pull these out because I think they'll fall out really easy, and I don't want to lose them. You see here? That one's in there pretty good. These ones back here. Before you do anything, make sure, okay, just slide right out. I'll show you what I got going on here. I'm putting the bolts in order, in the order that I took them out, basically. And it's just got a little bolt stack going on. And here's that wing. Here's the bracket for the whole filter. I think it's a filter or something. What is this? Filter dryer receiver. That's what it is. So if you come around on this side, you can see what I'm talking about. There's these rubber flap getting in the way later on if I don't take it off. Because we're literally going to take this, imagine my hand as a condenser, and we're going to go like that. Probably use a tarp strap to hold it up towards the windshield or something like that. Could just take these three bolts off right here, and right here, and just let it hang off to the side. But then you got this big piece of metal hanging out, and you're going to be crawling all over this thing. You bump it with your elbow and knock it into the condenser. If you just make a little cut right here, you can take this flap completely off and disconnect it from this. But let's try loosening these up. These look like about a 10 or 11. So they are a 10. You're gonna be really careful because there could be a little bit of tension on this rubber right here. If you see the condenser, it's just kind of hanging here in no man's land. And maybe it's hanging on this rubber here. When you take this last one out, things might go ka-thunk, and ka-thunks sometimes are not good. Well, hopefully I didn't just put a hole in the radiator. No ka-thunk this time on this one. Here's that little corner of rubber I was telling you about. You just cut that, you can take this whole thing off. It's your call. You just snip that little piece of rubber, fold this all off of here, or you can vacuum the system out, disconnect it, and then when you're all done, reconnect it and then re-energize the system. If you follow this rubber piece all the way down, right where it curves into the side of the radiator, there's a Christmas tree right there. So I have to get that Christmas tree. I'll see if we have some Christmas tree pliers to pull that out. But like I said, it's your call if you want to vacate your system, do all that, or you can just swing this piece up out of the way. It might get in your way later, you don't know yet. If it does get in your way later, you could just cut that little, it's just a little piece of rubber like right here that you could cut, and then this whole thing would flop off. And when you get this back together, and you see here, there's this like corner slot system. Once you get that back together, and you have a little cut right there, you'll never notice. Maybe that's one of those whistles. When you have a vehicle that has a whistle, maybe it's something like that. So maybe you don't want to. But all right, let's keep trucking here. I'm gonna get a Christmas tree plier. So here I got a Christmas tree plier. It's kind of hard to get it under there and hold this camera. So let me get under there and then I'll do it. Basically, you just have to dig it into, get this middle part. See there, it's got the middle part under the Christmas tree, and then you squeeze these together, and maybe, just like Plinko for rednecks. Okay. What do you see? Pop right out. We won't be needing these again. We might need these again on the other side, actually. Let's pop that other one real quick, because we're going to have to eventually, and we already got the tool out. Oh, I can't find that Christmas tree. It took off on me. I heard it ka-tunk, 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 but I think I'm gonna get some new ones anyways. And so I'm not gonna worry too much about that. Gonna take this side off too, just so it's less stuff in the way when we're trying to get this intercooler out of here. Now I'm gonna see what I can do here about getting this condenser out of the way. I don't know. Let's go out there and I'll show you what I did. So you can see the condenser has been flipped up and down like that. It's still gonna be in the way a little bit. Okay. Thinking right there, it's gonna be out of the way enough. I don't know how long that's gonna hold, but I just put a hook in here and I ran another hook down to there. If you see here, pretty well out of the way. One thing I just noticed is this is the clamps here holding the hose onto the radiator. And these are one-time use clamps, so I'm gonna have to cut these here or here, and then we're gonna have to put a regular hose clamp on there when we're done. So for the intercooler, we got these clamps here, one on each side. Looks like we got about a 16 millimeter here. Assuming there's two on the other side. We'll have to disconnect this one here also. I think these are 10 millimeter. I'm gonna go ahead and get these out of the way. I lied, they're 13. For these, I'm just putting them back together. They're kind of baked to the hose right now. I'm gonna use a pick to get these loose, but just so I don't lose the stuff, I'm just putting the hardware right back on, but disconnected. Get a stubborn one like this, you can just stick a pick under it, and if not, you can kind of go under here, just kind of like that. Then you can take this pick here, put it underneath, and just start going around. I think this is totally broke free now on both sides. I have to probably wait till this is unbolted to get it off, but it will come nice and easy, and the other side should come nice and easy too, since we took the time to break it free. So these are a 16 millimeter. I don't know what you guys can and can't see. So I got 3 of these out. This is the last one. I'm not just gonna rip it out. I'm gonna go out slow and see how weight settles and stuff like that. Okay, I got the bolts out. Let's see. Just gonna cooperate, come right out. The tube on the other side is hanging up. Okay, the intercooler is totally free on both sides. Put the camera out here. You guys can see. I'm afraid I'm gonna kick this here with my heel, and the hood's gonna go wha-bam. So if you look here, the tubes are tapered back towards the motor on both sides. Kind of goes like that. On this side, it goes like that. I tried doing some Tetris puzzle to try and, you know, kick it sideways, but it's just not cooperating. And I don't want to put a hole in it. So I'm just taking my time. Maybe I'll find that sweet spot. So I put all the slack on the other side. I pushed the intercoolers all the way up on the other side, pushed in, and I'm almost there. So I did the opposite of the way that I had it. Like this, I pushed the side back in all the way up against, and then I worked this side out. And I think this side here is a little bit shorter. And once I did that, it cleared and I could get it out. But just so there's no confusion, when I'm putting it back together, I really should pressure test this also, just to see. I think what we're gonna do next is unbolt the shroud, and then we're gonna unbolt these. I'm taking this whole thing will lean forward. I'm gonna probably take this strip off while we're here, just so it's one less thing that we're gonna be fighting. All right, so next on the list is getting this shroud loose. It looks like there's 2 10 millimeter bolts here and here, and there's one here, and then there's one down there. I'm assuming it's the same on the other side. Yeah, it's the same on this side. Here, 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 and then down there. I'm leaving these top ones on. I'm getting the bottom 2 out first because they're the hardest to get to. I got this little guy here, so hopefully that'll help me get this one out a little easier. The reason I did the bottom one second is because as soon as you get this one and the other one loose, this thing's gonna wanna settle a little bit, and then you're gonna be fighting the weight of it. For this top shroud here, there's also 3 bolts inside. Right here. 2 or 3, I can't see. Short of the hoses, the radiator's kind of ready to go forward. So I'm gonna take out these bolts here on both sides. The bracket, this one goes back to here. You might have to take one side out and then just loosen the other side that's down. If you follow this, it's off camera, it's right here. So it's a 19 millimeter top and bottom. Let's see if this thing's got enough snort to get it loose here. My thinking is that once we get these brackets loose and the hoses off, get those bands cut, and we lean it forward, these the bolts holding its top shroud in would be a lot easier to get to. These are 19 millimeter also. Okay, so I got that loose. As you can see here, this is that band that I'm gonna have to cut. I'm gonna just use, I'm not sure what I'm gonna use. Got this die cutter here. You gotta be extra careful when you use this. You should have safety glasses and stuff on. And then I'm just gonna skim the band. I'm not gonna go real deep. See if I can get that. I started getting into the hose a little bit. Just got started with that, and I'm gonna as you can see there, I just barely scuffed it right there. I think it's gonna be all right. So I'll have to use the pick here to get that broke loose. Down underneath the truck now, you can see this is the other hose clamp here. I'll have to do the same thing with that one. Get a pick and break the top and bottom loose. I'm gonna replace this, I think, this hose. Let's see if this will even budge. No, but it's getting closer. I wonder if there's some carriage bolts down on the bottom. Some of these radiators just sit in a pocket and some of them are actually bolted. I bet this one's bolted. I will have to take these off. I'm gonna put some penetrating oil on those. I'm gonna try and get this hose broke loose while I'm down here. Actually, that one might just, oh yeah, that one's ready. That one's ready to just come off. I'll run the pick around it just for the heck of it. Ooh. I'll let this strip out here real quick. I'll get a bucket. I'll catch the rest of that. We just got this guy here. Actually, using the camera to see where I'm going. That one I'm going to put right back in once it's out. Gotta say, I'm not a fan of the non-reusable hoses. That's so silly. If you're out on the road and you get a leak or something, you could like cut the hose back, you know, a little bit. Put your clamp on there, tighten it up, get home, get a new hose. If these start leaking, you're done. All right, got this Milwaukee Fuel 1/2 inch impact. We'll see if it'll break them loose. These I'm gonna give own special spot right here. Okay, this hose here is ready to come off too. Get that off. Whoa. Something over here is hanging up. I think it's these brackets here. No, it's this hose here. That's it. Maybe I'm gonna end up finding the bracket for this steel pipe here. Loosen that, and that way I can work things if I can't. See, there's a bracket right in here. And that's welded to this pipe. I think if I could get that loose, then I could work things more. I think maybe the zip tie is hanging up, but I think the bell of this is like right here. So this shouldn't be affecting it. I think they might actually be. I'll cut that. I'm gonna have to get a new hose here. So I think I'm gonna get a new lower also, if they got it. I think I'm gonna try and lean this forward and get the shroud bolts out. So if you see this bolt here, there's one at each corner of the radiator, and that's what's keeping this metal shroud in with the radiator. It would be nice if you could just take these bolts out, spread them a little bit, and then lift the radiator straight out. But if you look down there, way down there, there's like angle brackets. And over there, you have your outlet, just like this tube here. That bracket is like going across it like this. But, you know, consider it inversed. So you can't slide that bottom corner hose down there. It won't come up because there's a bar in the way. So I missed these two for the shroud. They're right here. You can see these clips. I'm not gonna film it. Just look like a pick would work. Let's see if I can lean this forward, lay it on the garbage can here. It's bigger than a 13. These aren't. I don't know if a 13 is gonna work in there or if they'll spin. All right, so I got all 4 bolts out. This webbing bolt over here. There's this webbing bolt here. There's 4 of them again. I think this whole thing could come out right now. The thing is that it's just me here. And I don't know if I can lift this whole thing by myself. So I'm hoping by shedding some weight, I can get it out or whatnot. So we got it out by myself. Got a new one back here. Like I said, all these uprights and stuff, I took them out one at a time. Typically, you probably would use a crane or have a guy help you just lift that whole thing out. But since I'm by myself, I didn't want to blow my back out or break the fan or anything. So I'm going to put this on there. I'm going to put it all back together. And then I will get a hand and have someone help me lower it in there later today. Hopefully. Let's go look at this mess. Oh, here she is. The business end of this truck. So even this here, I probably will take this out and put it all together out there and then bring it in here and set it in. It will clear the fan. Look at the size of that thing. This hose I did end up ripping. I stuck a screwdriver in there, pried up, and it ripped, but it came loose. Yeah, what a mess. Oh, there you have it. See on this radiator here, there's these holes here, and we're not going to use that, and I don't know if that's going to clear the carriage. If you look on the old one, they're not there, and I don't see a plug of any kind. Have these. Get these, but there's no plug. I'm worried when I get it in there. Oh, there are two holes. I was worried when I get it in there, I'm not gonna have anything. Anyway, I was worried that the carriage would come up to like right here. I wouldn't be able to access that. I don't know. That's definitely open to the radiator. You can see fins in there, so we gotta plug that somehow. I'm gonna call the dealership here and see.
I'm afraid all the operators are busy at the moment, but please hold and you will be transferred when somebody becomes available.
We'll be right with you.
That new radiator you guys sold me, it's got, you got your drain hole in the bottom, and then you have your outflow, and then there's two holes in it. There's two fittings. I don't know if it's for another truck, but our old radiator doesn't have those fittings, and they're open to air. So, I mean, there's no plugs in the kit.
Really?
Yeah, well, there's some brass in there, but there's no caps for it.
Okay, so what it looks like is that is for the transmission cooler lines if your vehicle has that. So yeah, it's definitely one of those things you just gotta plug them.
Okay, so if you look down in here, there's holes right here. So if this truck had a water to oil tranny cooler, this is where it would go. But I'll be able to access this from the other side. So you can see there, I just used a C-clamp to push in on the sides a little bit. I left myself a little bit of overhang so I could get it between the sides here. And then once I get it in there, I relax that C-clamp and then it'll just sit right in there. Now I can use my center punch or my punch here. And I'm using my foot down here to help line this thing up. And then I'm just gonna tap this in now. Now these, I don't know, this is from Northern Radiator. No clue where yours are gonna come from, but these are 14 millimeter. I'm gonna just suck them down real quick, get it done, get them tightened up. But I'm not gonna tighten them all the way. What I'm gonna do is put these nuts on the bottom. This is the bottom of the radiator. It's upside down right now. I'm gonna put these on so when I flip it over, these aren't dragging on the concrete. I'm just wondering if I can rock this thing enough to get the bolts started. Get you guys down on the floor here, see what I'm talking about. So there are, in the side here, there's kind of some rubber bumpers. And so we're gonna kind of suck the, it's gonna be a little bit hard to push this part over. We're squeezing those together. So now the radiator's on its side. I was hoping that gravity would help line these holes up. You can see we're a little ways off there yet. The holes on this frame here down there are slotted. So what I did is I put this in here, pried it that way to get all the slack out of it so I can get it lined up a little better. But I'm just gonna use gravity to push this down, line that hole up. And I'm gonna push it on the bolt, and I'm gonna hit down on this, and then hopefully it'll go in. See if we can do the same thing on the other side now. See, I just did that same thing with the weight off of it, and this whole arm slid that way. Now the bolt hole's gonna line right up. Again, I'm gonna push in on the bolt and tap down on this. And what that does is gonna rock this frame a little bit, and if the bolt's got pressure on it, as soon as it lines up, it'll go in. See, just like that, started. I'm sure there's a torque spec for this. I don't know what it is. I'm gonna go till the gun goes clackety clackety clack, and then that's all I'm gonna do. You don't want these too tight because it'll squish that rubber right out of there. So I got the carriage back on, it's ready to go back in. Only problem I have now is that now that I have that carriage on there, one, it's slippery on the sides. The radiator is kind of sticky and there's something to grab onto. But the painted side here with coolant on it is a little bit slippery. And I just don't have the grip to grab both sides and then lift this straight up and get it in here. So I called my boss. And I'm gonna try and get here early tomorrow, and we'll have a guy on each side lift this thing up, and then we'll have one guy underneath to guide it in. So that's it for today. I was gonna try and do an all-nighter, but put the shroud bolts back on. I gotta get another one for that. There's two clips down below, and I broke them getting them out. I got a kit here, got all the different Christmas tree type things, retainer clips. Pretty simple, you just push this in here and then you push the center down. It causes it to expand and then it won't come out. And to get it out, you just pull the center out, then it'll come right out. I'm just getting ready to put the intercooler back on. I'm just getting these clamps set up and put on here, so that when it's on, I don't have to fish them around and stuff like that. It'll be good to go. So with the radiator, I'm gonna try and put it, I think you put the right side on, or the left side on, driver's side on first. Get that all the way in, and then the right side, the passenger side, should go in. I might need a little bit of help, so I don't put a hole in things. So there's guys here, maybe I'll see if they'll help. Hey, nobody's perfect. Forgot to put the webbing back on. So now I gotta undo everything I just did. All right, we're back where we started with about a 20-minute delay, but back where we started here. I'm gonna try and get that intercooler on now. The problem I'm having now is I gotta lift this up and put the bolts in at the same time. I'm just short, that's the problem. Actually, I'm gonna leave the bottom ones off and the top ones loose till I get this hose on there. There's some white like corrosion right here. It must get moisture in here, and it sits there. Just white powder. I'm gonna brush that off real quick. I don't want any of that going into the motor. This goes right into the motor. They get these brushes here from the dollar store for a 3-pack or something like that, and I'll be honest with you, it's too much. The dollar is 33 cents. It's too much for this. Every time you use one, they break. Gotta put the rubbers on all the way around now. Same thing again, it's just not. The bolts aren't long enough to grab the clip, but threading in. So I rammed a bunch of paper towel in there, and that way I can push while I'm running the gun, and then it'll usually grab. See what else they got. I got some longer ones here. So stupid. The clips, I don't know if you can see them. This is what I'm talking about. Right here, this clip. They're not flat because the way they're manufactured, like curved back, and the bolt, they're meant to be flat. So I'm trying to get it on there, and that little curved back won't allow. There's not enough threads to start grabbing, and if you use longer bolts, once it does grab, it's going to flatten that out, and it's going to put a hole in the radiator. So I don't know. Dumb. Try putting a little more paper towel in my socket here. I'm gonna run the bolt in with the washer first, and maybe I'll flatten out the metal bracket. Maybe I'll take the old clips off. These clips are junk. They had the same problem on the other side. You can see this gap right here. And that's what's pushing us further out from, we're trying to reach in and grab those threads right there. We're just out too far. You can see these clips are a lot flatter, so I'm gonna pull these off and use these. Okay, so use a pick. I got the ones off the old Radiator. You can see they're way more flat. Now I gotta get these out of here, these other ones. There's 4 across the top. Can't quite see, but who cares? Use your imagination. Let's compare these really quick. I'll show you why it's not working. Right here is raised up on the inside. So once you put that on there, it spreads this apart. Right now they're the same. Once you push this in there, it spreads them apart. And it spreads them apart enough just to where the threads won't catch. But these new clips, junk for this project. Stuck myself with a pick. Put these old ones on. Thread right in. Strip that one out. Threads right into the body of the intercooler. Now we gotta pull that intercooler back over, get that ready to go. These just have the 4 carriage bolts going inside like that. $10mm on the other side where the lines come around. The truck is right behind there, it's hard to get to. I'm dumb. These have to go on here. We'll get it right eventually. Now I gotta put these little guys back in. They're 10mm. I think these were 13 or something like that. Gotta put the hood straps back on. All right, so I got this clamp, this bracket back on, got the bolts on, I got this water pipe, I got that back on. I still got to tighten the upper and lower water clamps. So on another truck with this Radiator, they have a water to oil tranny cooler, and this Radiator is universal for this truck and that. So I went and got some of these O-ring Boss fittings here, or plugs, just to cap those off. I gotta put those in. There's one here, and then there's one right there. One here. See this hose here rubbing on that bolt. I'm gonna have to zip tie these together, or I'm gonna lose all my oil someday. I got a new radiator hose. It goes from the bottom of this, whatever. This is oil lines and this is coolant, so some kind of an oil cooler. I'm gonna cut this band here too. I got a whole new hose here for this. See if I can cut it without getting into the can. Oh, it's not pretty. This cutting disc is just too big. Maybe right here. Driver sharp knife, but I don't like using sharp knives on stuff like this. It's dangerous. Let's see if I can get this off. I think I got everything done. I hope. Let's start dumping coolant in here and see where all it pours out from.
Have you ever felt?
Are you listening? Damn.
All right, got her pretty full of coolant. I don't think it'll take any more until it burps or starts running. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I don't see any coolant on the floor. Pretty sure I got everything tight. Crank her up and see what happens. I see it sucking the coolant down. I better top it off. I'm going to let it run for like 15 or 20 minutes. It should reach a point where the thermostat opens and you'll have to add another gallon or so. I got 3 gallons of coolant with me, so I can stop and top it off at any time. What I'm going to do right now is take my flashlight, go over the entire job, look for any kind of a noise or a leak. We heard some kind of squeaking when I started it. That was just some leftover coolant on the serpentine belts. But I did a really good job of checking everything, but you just never know when you're going to forget something. I'm going to take my flashlight, go around and check it over. I didn't just dump that bucket of coolant and a bunch of crap in it right into the motor. I had a body paint filter in the funnel here. can see how much crap it kept out of the cooling system.
Have you ever
All right, well, there you have it. One Freightliner 114 SD with a new radiator. It doesn't have any leaks. I checked everything over really well. I let the truck warm up till the fan kicked in, and then I checked and topped the coolant off. It should have taken I think when I brought the truck in, it was about a half gallon low on coolant, and so it should have taken all the coolant in those buckets plus about a half a gallon, which I think is about what it took. I'm gonna go work the truck. I'm gonna go load up a tank, run it down the highway, get the engine warm, and see. I checked everything over really well. I couldn't find anything loose, and none of the clamps and stuff were leaking. I was a little bit worried about that little hose on top of the radiator. I didn't have a real good clamp for that. So anyhow, everybody, if you're thinking about doing this for yourself, I wouldn't do it unless you have some way of lifting that radiator when it's put together with the carriage on it. That's just too heavy to lift by yourself. If you want to risk it, go for it. You might throw out your back. You might, get a hernia or something like that. That's your discretion. But yeah, once I got two helpers to help me. It was me on one side and another coworker on the other side, and then a coworker in the front. We just lifted it right up in there. It was no problem. And then I had to get help with the intercooler itself. By the time you bear hug that intercooler and get it up, you can't let go to get a bolt started. So anyhow, everyone, I'd give this about an 8 out of 10. I think you could do it on your own if you're general mechanic like I am. I'm not certified. I just tinker on a little bit of everything. But I think with 8 out of 10 as far as difficulty, and I think that you will for sure need either a second set of hands or some way like a cherry picker or overhead crane or something like that, or tractor with a bucket. I think we could have got it with that, but I normally would do a job like this all at once. I'd stay till 2 o'clock in the morning and get it done. Like when I was 25 years old, that's what I'd do. I'd find a project and just hammer it out. But I'm 40, almost 40, and my feet got tired last night. So I don't know. I probably got about 9 hours into it. The dealer charges 8. I feel like with an overhead crane, it probably would have saved me an hour or so. I think I could do this in 6 hours with an overhead crane and the right tools. I was always searching for a socket here, searching for a socket there, and I think if I had a little bit different tool set up, I think for sure I could have this done in 6-7 hours on my own. Anyhow, everybody, if you have any questions, feel free to message me on Instagram. I'll help you out to the best of my ability. I might call Northern Radiator and give them crap about those clips. That stuff's junk. They have to know that doesn't work. I'm not the first person that's had a problem with that. But anyways, I just took the clips off the old one and it went right in. So anyhow, everybody, thanks for your time. All right, so I went and hauled a load. Looks like it's down a little bit. I actually hauled 2 loads, but everything's drying out. It looks like there's coolant everywhere there is. I maybe should have rinsed some of this off, but nothing a little rain can't do. Or you get a nice day, I'll get the pressure washer out. But yeah, everything looks like it's staying dry. The pan down there is drying out. Everything over here is staying pretty dry, it looks like. I'm gonna top it off. We'll see how much it takes after running it. All right, well, I topped it off. Took about a gallon. It's still about a gallon low. But like I said, I think everything's gonna hold up all right. I don't see any coolant down here. Let me pull my sunglasses down. I don't see any coolant down there in the tray. So you seen there, the radiator's looking pretty good, and I'm gonna try something I saw once or heard about in a book to get it fixed, just to patch it up for a little while. So what I have here is some bubble yum. It's original flavor. You want to make sure it's original for this to work. So I'm just gonna chew some of this up and stick it on that radiator and see if that'll hold. I'm thinking that leak is like at least a 2-piece bubble yummer. I'm gonna get another piece here going. Well, I must have gotten the wrong flavor.